So आज बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन है. So hello everyone, welcome to Brewing Knowledge Friday. It's an exciting session because when you get a new book, you always feel good about it. और मेरे घर नई बुक जब आती है, मैं उस किताब को शेल्फ पे रखता हूँ और हमेशा 3-4 हफ्ते पड़ी रहती है. उसके बाद हिम्मत करके खोलता हूँ. और कोई भी किताब ऐसी नहीं है जो मैंने खोली ना हो. कई लोग हैं किताब कलेक्ट करते हैं. आप मेरे आसपास देखेंगे, आपको सिर्फ सामने 2 शेल्फ नजर आ रहे हैं. ऐसे 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 शेल्फ हैं. एंड आई हैव रेड मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द बुक्स. सो बुक जब शेल्फ में आती है, वो अपनी कहानी लेके आती है और वो चाहती है आप उसे अप्रिशिएट करें. क्यों? क्योंकि उस बुक में किसी एक व्यक्ति का खून पसीना होता है. बहुत मेहनत होती है. किताब लिखना इतना आसान नहीं है. किताब लिखना उतना ही कठिन है जितना जिंदगी में सीखना और आगे बढ़ना, और उससे ज्यादा, बिकॉज किताब हर कोई नहीं लिख पाता. तो इसलिए किताबों की इज्जत करना, उनको एक नजरिए से देखना, प्यार भरी नजरिए से करना. आप जैसे भी कभी किताब गिरती है, आप सबसे पहले उसको उठा के प्रेम करते हैं, प्यार करते हैं किताब को. सो दैट इज द डेप्थ ऑफ द बुक. और हाल ही में कल परसों आपने देखा होगा, आई शेयर्ड इन द कम्युनिटी अ लिटिल क्लिप ऑफ शशि थरूर as to why we should read and what is the difference in reading books and simply scrolling on social media. And with that spirit, we thought that why not meet here once a week just to share the joy of books. This session is a very unique one. ये Sunday जैसा नहीं है, Saturday जैसा नहीं है. ये session एक first meeting format में है. Saturday वाला webinar format में होता है, और Sunday तो school होता है जब बहुत सारे बच्चे होते हैं, आप बात नहीं कर सकते. तो आप प्लीज कोशिश कीजिए कि इसमें सवाल पूछिए. आप प्लीज कोशिश कीजिए, आप और हम मिलकर जब पढ़ें तो इस सेशन का पूरा फायदा उठाएं, ताकि आपको सपोर्ट मिल सके आपकी लर्निंग कम्युनिटी बनाने का. So this is a new book we are starting today. I'll read it very comfortably so that everyone can understand. What did you ask at school today? Look at the cover. आपको कौन नजर आ रहा है कवर पे? सोचिए. आई वॉन्ट यू टू टॉक. लुक एट द कवर. व्हाट कम्स टू योर माइंड फर्स्ट? इस किताब को देखिए, आपके दिल में क्या आवाज आती है इस किताब को देख के? बहुत सिंपल तरीके से लिखा है. अगर आप अंग्रेजी थोड़ी सोच सोच के पढ़ते हैं, इस कवर को पढ़ सकते हैं. सबसे ऊपर है ऑथर का नाम, कमला वी, मुकुंदा. What did you ask at school today? A Handbook of Child Learning. Just think, आपके माइंड में क्या आ रहा है when you see this cover? What is
Parent and child.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Parent and child.
Yes, could be a parent and child conversation. Perfect, absolutely. What else is coming to your mind when you're looking at the cover? सोचिए सोचिए. Just look at the
conversation between parents and students.
हाँ, हो सकता है पेरेंट एंड स्टूडेंट की कॉन्वर्सेशन है. और आपके माइंड में क्या आता है जब इस कवर को देखते हैं? वी जस्ट लुकिंग एट द कवर एज अ पीस
what they have done in the school.
यस, आपने स्कूल में आज क्या किया? एब्सोल्युटली. और क्या आपके, अगर आप किताब को फर्ज कीजिए अभी दुकान में जा रहे हैं, यू आर गोइंग टू अ बुक शॉप, दिस बुक विद द कवर, वुड यू पिक दिस बुक अप?
It is interesting to know about what students tell to their parents about the school and teaching.
जी, please look at the cover a little more. I want you to comment more on the cover, not just focus on what you are telling me about the
simplicity of the cover. The simplicity of the cover that strikes that.
Simplicity, yes.
It's colorful, but otherwise it's very simple. And even the drawing of the parent and
it is made by a student or a child, maybe.
Yes, इसमें भावना है बच्चे की.
Okay.
बहुत अच्छा. What else?
The picture may be created by the student.
Yes, very right.
Question is
Picture may have been
also
made by the
very
student.
simple. What did you ask at school today? Though
Meenakshi, your audio is bad. Just relax a little. So the question is very simple. What did you ask at school today? So which conveys to you by the cover that what the book is all about. It's a handbook of child learning. कि आपने स्कूल से क्या सीखा. So today what we will do a little review of the book and read the introduction. Cover आपने देख लिया. So it says the book has a cover, the book has a foreword, the book has a preface, book has acknowledgements. Normally, when you buy the book, you straight away start with chapter one. But I think that's not the way a book should be read. A book should be read by understanding why the book was written. So let's introduce Kamla Mukunda. Dr. Yashpal, National Research Professor. Once I've heard of Dr. Yashpal, he's one of the brilliant educationists we've had in this century. I've not had the pleasure of reading a book on education as erudite and comprehensive as this one, written by Kamla V. Mukunda. It has many wonderful things that I thought I had discovered. Kamla's scholarly work has deflated my ego. There are few first discoveries in this area. This is a beautiful work, extremely well written, almost an encyclopedia for those interested in children's education. I do believe, though, that deep things are learnt more autonomously than most of us in education believe. Perhaps schools often manage to destroy some precious features. डॉक्टर यशपाल हैज सेड ने कहा कि ये किताब बहुत बढ़िया कमला जी ने लिखी है और इसमें हमें समझाया गया है कितनी सिंप्लिसिटी है उनमें. तो इसमें एक इन्होंने बोला डिफ्लेटेड माई ईगो, मतलब इस किताब को पढ़ के मैं जमीन में थम सा गया हूं, खड़ा हो गया हूं, रुक गया हूं और सोच रहा हूं. और किताब जो है इट हैज सम इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स कि बच्चे अपने आप क्या क्या सीख लेते हैं. और ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि बच्चे अपने आप क्या सीख लेते हैं. I have repeated this time and again that most of the learning children pick up from home is by observation, and that is the key. So, this is the preface to the book. School is the place where children are taught a huge amount of formalized knowledge. A great deal of energy goes into planning and delivering this education. Yet, surveys both in the West and here in India indicate that the system is deficient. In America, where progressive methods of education have long been in use, reports over the last 25 years show that students are not mastering the fundamentals. And here at home, a national education survey reported alarming gaps in student learning, and this is in our top schools. So this is an old study, but very relevant even today. The survey published in 2006 concluded that our students are not really understanding anything, perhaps because of an overemphasis on rote learning. Perhaps they suggested we need more active and hands-on learning experiences. Both this and the American report lament that the fact that students are not learning higher order thinking skills. What are we going wrong? Where are we going wrong? Obviously, one can address this question at many levels, but in this book, I will stick to the psychological principles behind our educational failures. A typical Indian school curriculum seems to have its own version of the structure of the brain. And as far as curricula are concerned, the brain might well look as in the figure below. Perhaps this is an exaggeration, but it emphasizes the mismatch between what the brain is good at and what typical school expects from it. To summarize this match in a few statements below. Please have a look at the graphic. Have a look at the graphic. So you're showing a very simple analogy of the brain. large empty space for filling up. Another large empty space for filling up. Information from textbooks. And look, sensation, perceptions, reasoning. Where is the space for that? The brain is good at learning from real world contexts. School emphasizes abstract or textbook learning. The preschool child is already developing her own folk theories in the areas of biology, physics, psychology. School ignores these and tries to replace them with correct knowledge. Memory is constructive and interpretative. School emphasizes reproduction of material learned. Emotions are inseparable from learning and memory. School ignores the emotional side. जो आपका स्कूल है वो बच्चे की भावना को ठीक तरीके से समझ नहीं पाता. आपका स्कूल कोशिश करता है कि वो सिखाओ जो वो सीख सकते हैं और वो भी सिखाओ जो वो नहीं सीख सकते, परंतु जो वो नहीं सीख सकते उसकी चिंता मत करो, सिर्फ वो जो याद रखते हैं उस पर फोकस करो. और इसमें एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज ये है कि अगर आप बायोलॉजिकली ग्रो करते हैं, आपकी बॉडी बायोलॉजी, फिजिक्स, साइकोलॉजी अपने आप सीखती है और सिखाती भी है. और स्कूल इसको कहता है ऐसे नहीं, this is the way you are supposed to perceive. So your book and your text is considered as sacred. There are many mismatches, but these are primary. What now is the solution to this? Maybe we should abandon the idea of formalized instructions. I've heard some progressive educators say things like children should be left alone and they will learn whatever they need to. Of course, this is in reaction to the stifling school environment most children find themselves in. And I can understand the feeling, but it is not clear what is meant by being left alone. Do we provide learning materials and books? Do we teach, but only when they come to us with their questions? Will they pick up reading, writing just from being surrounded by books? In the way they learn speaking and comprehension just from being in language rich surroundings? I think it is certainly true that in a rich environment, children will learn a great deal just from interacting with objects and people. But there are limits to this unguided, innately driven learning. As I will explain in chapter 1, sorry. Human beings have not evolved brain module program to pick up high school algebra or the periodic table naturally. Some kind of imaginative, explicit instruction is required to foster the higher order thinking. That those surveys lamented. Our world has changed to the point where such learning is seen as necessary core to our successful adaptation. And so we have to teach. We cannot leave our children to pick up what they will. It would, in my opinion, be irresponsible to do so, given society's demands. How well does schooling accomplish this need? To help us in this discovery, we ought to know more about how the brain works. Memory, learning, intelligence, child development, and other areas of psychology can tell us a great deal what would help to become better teachers. The chapters of the book contain many useful insights under these headings. One thing to keep in mind while reading the book is that the topics are not watertight compartments. One cannot understand learning, memory, and intelligence separately. Yet, by creating chapters with these headings, it seems that I'm doing just that. In actuality, all are interrelated, which is why there will often be references within a chapter to other chapters and a fair degree of overlap. I hope you will sometimes return to earlier chapters to reread sections of interest to you. as this will sharpen your own understanding and questions. It's a very interesting introduction of the book. So when we read this introduction of the book, you will find what is the meaning of being a teacher. I'll take a pause here. We have some people who teach in English, who learn in English, and I will put a question to them. रीना जी, ललिता जी, क्या मैं आराम से पढ़ रहा हूं? आप तक मेरी आवाज पहुंच रही है?
Yes, sir, we are getting.
हाँ, तो कोई आपको कठिनाई हो रही है मेरे बोलने में, समझाने में?
No, sir.
No, sir.
कोई दिक्कत नहीं है? आप थोड़ा बहुत कुछ समझ पा रहे हैं इस सेक्शन से, इस किताब से?
Yes.
Good. So we will carry on. Meenakshi, can you help your teachers post session in case they have QAs?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So what we will do is we will now explore the book further. So when I was talking about exploring the book, I always suggest that you explore the book with the introduction and the contents. So we are now going to read the introduction of the book. We have understood why the book was written. And today we will focus on purely the introduction of the book. Then the chapters of the book and the details of the book, I'm going to make a snapshot of this and give you in your WhatsApp. An interesting part about every book is that there is always a portion after the book, which is acknowledgements. And so often we forget that acknowledgements are an equal good part of the book. एंड ऐसे ही जिंदगी में हम टीचर्स को हम एक्नॉलेज करते हैं और टीचर्स को याद रखते हैं. दिस बुक इज फॉर टीचर्स प्राइमरीली, but also for anyone interacting closely with children. Like you saw on the cover, the conversation between a parent and a child. As a teacher myself, I often wonder about my students' learning abilities and emotional state. One student finds a topic particularly difficult, another is unmotivated. A third is unable to perform to her potential, and a fourth is distracted. This is how your classroom looks like. Sometimes we resolve these issues satisfactorily enough to go on with our work, but often they linger unresolved. Actually, the questions that rise from a teacher's daily work are deep and fundamental, with very vast implications, and many have no answer, no known answer. Still, everyone likes to have their questions answered, and teachers are no different. From my experience and reading, we draw conclusions and hold beliefs about learning, child development, motivation, intelligence, molarity, emotional health, and other critical aspects of teaching. And these beliefs we act. As teachers, beliefs and perceptions are often strongly held. Perhaps this is because beliefs tend to organize our interpretation of events, and we end up seeing only confirmation wherever we look. Many teachers have beliefs that they have never even articulated in words, but which they hold strongly nevertheless. A few examples expressed in my own words will give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Interesting. आप जो सोचते हैं वही देखते हैं, और जो आप देखना चाहते हैं आप वही सोचते हैं. ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग एक डबल एज स्वॉर्ड है. तो लर्निंग में भी बिलीफ्स जब आपकी पहले आ जाती हैं, कई बार आप कहेंगे ये बच्चा सीख नहीं सकता, और आप वहीं पे उसे छोड़ देते हैं और उसकी ये एक पहचान बन जाती है. सोचिए आप क्या कर सकते हैं. सो ये थोड़ी सी पॉइंट्स हैं, थोड़ा बिलीफ्स हैं, सम एग्जांपल्स हैं विच वी से. इंटेलिजेंस इज नॉट इवनली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड इन द पॉपुलेशन. लर्निंग शुड ऑलवेज बी फन. School is a means to an end. Diversity in a classroom is a problem. Children should be taught to be independent thinkers. Children should learn to think like adults. Anyone can learn anything. Children should learn to fit into the real world. Children are best at their own pace. The significance of our holding these and other beliefs as teachers cannot be overstated. You can see that from each of the statements above inevitably flow certain decisions and structures. You may see that our actions would be right if our own beliefs are true. But when it comes to education and learning, there are not many absolutely true statements. Any strongly held belief has the power to make us rigid and inflexible as teachers, which can make us insensitive to the particulars of a given child in a given situation. On closer examination, practically all the examples given above become very complicated and their correctness cannot be established. This realization is actually quite liberating. It leaves us free to view situations from different perspectives, to question strong positions, to see exceptions and deviations, and to be flexible in our approach. What is needed is time and space for reflection, for questioning our perceptions and ourselves as teachers. Reflection, that is the turning point. A teacher who can reflect on the teaching learning process has a naturally investigative, curiosity driven approach to education. I always say what matters for a teacher, curiosity and hygiene, and that's what a teacher should focus on. It is essentially scientific approach, one which fits in beautifully with the scientific methods of psychology. The field of psychology studies all the topics central in our work: learning, memory, intelligence, motivation, child development, and emotional health. Psychologists work by formulating theories, testing them, and refining them. For them, no single theory is ever completely and absolutely true. However popular it may become among non psychologists. Every psychological explanation has its caveats. Caveat का मतलब होता है limitation, conditionals and criticisms. And therefore, understanding the work of psychologists can help us to look critically at our own beliefs as teachers, keeping us on our toes. The truth almost always turns out to be subtle, complex, and difficult to pin down into tips for a successful teacher. This, for me, is the beauty of psychology and its strongest contribution to education. इस किताब में एग्जाम्पल्स हैं कि आप सक्सेसफुल टीचर कैसे बन सकते हैं. आप सक्सेसफुल टीचर तभी बनेंगे जब आप सबसे पहले रिफ्लेक्ट करेंगे, सोचेंगे. जब आप आईने में अपना काम करने का तरीका देखेंगे. एक छोटा सा हमने एक्सपेरिमेंट किया था 2 साल पहले. जब हमने टीचर्स को कहा आप जब क्लास में पढ़ाते हैं एक टीचर को और बुलाइए साथ और उसको बोलिए इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग बना ले, एक छोटा सा वीडियो आपके पढ़ाने के तरीके का. और वीडियो बनाते वक्त सिर्फ आप ही को मत दिखाए, पूरी क्लास का वीडियो बनाए, दीवार का, चार्ट्स कहाँ लगे हैं, दरवाजा कहाँ है, खिड़की कहाँ है. और आप घर जाके उस वीडियो को रिप्ले करें और फिर आप देखेंगे कि आप क्लास में कैसे काम कर रहे थे. ये एक एक्सरसाइज हमने की थी विद अ सॉफ्टवेयर कॉल्ड एडथिना, and the fantastic reflections came from teachers after that. And then teachers started talking to each other and they realized that they need to question their perceptions. They need to question the way they do their own things, and that's how they become better teachers. More significantly, a study of psychology can help us take our small questions about a particular students and classrooms and fit them into bigger, eternal questions of intense psychological debate. From why doesn't she remember this to what is memory all about? From does he have the ability to what are we born with? From have they understood to how knowledge constructed. These are short steps. It is exciting to see the connection between our work as teachers and wider social and philosophical issues. It reminds us that teaching is at the heart of what is to be human. So, when a child is born, the child starts learning, and you, as parents, start teaching. Now, teaching and learning essentially are same sides, opposite sides of a coin, not same sides. But remember, either way, both are learning. So, you as a teacher are learning, And if there is a student or a child on the other hand, that child is also learning. So essentially, learning is what knits you all together. Some interesting explanations there are. In this book, I have attempted to summarize current research in key areas of psychology relevant to education. Of course, current is a relative term. This book was done 20 years back, so even then it's relevant. The research reviewed her spans several decades, but most of it is from the last 10 to 15 years. The articles were all published in professional psychological journals, and access to these is limited for readers in India, even using the internet. Nevertheless, I've listed comprehensively every single paper I read and helped me write the chapters of this book for readers who would like to track something down. In many cases, I contacted the authors of the papers to request copies via email. Almost without exception, every such request was promptly and kindly responded to, and I'm grateful to all of them. That's what teachers are like. टीचर्स के पास क्षमता होती है देने की, और वो कभी भी किसी भी स्टूडेंट को निराश नहीं होने देंगे जब वह स्टूडेंट सीखना चाहता है. कल्पना जी ने जिसको भी लिखा उसके आर्टिकल के लिए उनको शत प्रतिशत सबसे मिल गया. A few explanations need to be given about the kind of research I've included. Let me begin with the most obvious thought about strikes anyone reading a psychology book for the Indian context. Is the research all being done in the West? Will it be relevant to the relevant situation, our situation? Over the 2 years it has taken me to complete this project, I have been able to sharpen this extremely important question considerably. I did try to include psychological research conducted in India with Indian participants. Although I found some, it was by no means enough to build an entire psychology of Indian education. The state of Indian psychology research has been studied and commented on by many scholars over the years, and I found a recent survey of Niharika Vora very informative. She describes three routes to the indigenization of psychological research in India. One route has been via cultural explanations of psychological phenomena. For example, there are studies to the effects of yoga on depression and anxiety, or studies on the tri-dimensional personality theory based on the Sankhya school of Hindu philosophy. However, this is not a popular approach. Perhaps because Indians are extremely culturally diverse people, a second route, much more popular, has been to make our common Indian realities such as poverty, crowding, and gender differences and subject of psychological study. The third route is to examine Western theories and concepts in Indian contexts. For many years, this amounted to a little more than replication of Western findings, but of late, there have been more inventive and original studies of this kind. To give you an idea of numbers involved, Vora found that out of 1,895 empirical psychological artists published in Indian journals in the period 1998 to 2002, a total of 26% could be called indigenous in one way or the other. Of these, 12 followed Route 1, 394 followed Route 2, and 85 followed Route 3. If our aim is to fully autonomous scientific psychology of India, we're only slowly moving towards it. What we need to help this process along are good quality journals, regional and national psychological associations, and in Vora's words, a critical mass of mature researchers who identify texts of national interest and problems relevant to the Indian context. So I'll summarize this. वी डोंट हैव मच ऑफ रिसर्च इन इंडिया. और जब हम टीचिंग और लर्निंग करते हैं, हम रिसर्च के बारे में सोचते ही नहीं, हम डेटा कलेक्शन करते ही नहीं, तो रिसर्च कैसे होगी? अब हम आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि आप रिफ्लेक्शन भेजिए, वो भी रिसर्च है. बहुत कम रिफ्लेक्शन आते हैं, और अगर आप एज ए टीचर रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करेंगे तो हमारा जर्नल कैसे बनेगा? So if you look at the bookshops and you look at the library, our shelves are flooded with Western literature. But large part of this Western literature is based on Eastern philosophy. So imagine आपकी philosophy आप Western literature से और Western lens से पढ़ रहे हैं. क्यों ना आप खुद पढ़िए उसको? Meanwhile, the field of Western psychology has plenty of insights to offer us. Of course, there are cultural differences. Our specific beliefs and practices are very often from those of people in the West. However, the mechanisms of thought and learning are the same. Some psychological research findings seem more subject to cultural influences and others less. More important than the findings themselves are the implications they hold for us as teachers in India. And I found I could usually draw these implications with ease. A reader may also ask how the topics of this book were chosen. Unlike a traditional textbook of education psychology, this one has no detailed treatment of history, methods, or schools of psychology. None of the traditional favorites, Piaget, Vygotsky, for example, have been described in detail or depth. What all you read in B.Ed will not come here. There are several excellent books available in the market that do this job, but an interested teacher might make the links between theory and practice herself, and these links are not often obvious. In conceptualizing this book, I began from the other end. I first listed several issues that teachers find most interesting or puzzling. These came out of many discussions that fellow teachers, as well as my questions as a teacher over nearly 2 decades. Within each chosen topic, I gathered the psychological literature to date and put it together in a way that I hope would be relevant, informative, and most of all, enjoyable to read. In searching through an amazingly rich body of psychological literature relevant to education, I made one decision that I never had cause to regret. Some psychologists work extensively on animals, dogs, cats, rats, and pigeons, and such research has yielded valuable understanding of animal and human psychology. Even though I admire the ingenuity of their work, the reality remains that research animals are often subjected to painful conditions. I wanted to avoid references to any animal studies and was pleased to find that all the phenomena I wish to describe have been studied with human beings and in ways that were ethical enough for my comfort. So you will not read in this book about the familiar rats running through mazes. While planning the writing of this book, I was told by many people, teachers and non teachers alike, but teachers don't read. While it is true that teachers find very little time to do their own reading after a long day at school, it is definitely an exaggeration to say that they don't read at all. Making time to read about education and wider issues can make the difference between teaching a job and teaching as a meaningful and exciting vocation. So, this book is for you, the busy teacher, because I believe that you want to keep the spirit of learning alive within yourself. So, Manisha, that's the bookmark for today. Any questions on the introduction of this book? I'm happy to take questions before we read the story of the day. So, this is a new format we are trying where we will read something very professional and we'll follow up with something thought provoking and light. So, I thought we will read 105 Rumi stories, one a week, and maybe some of you will reflect. These stories of Rumi will make you think. And the idea of brewing knowledge is applying that knowledge. Idea of brewing knowledge is that you take something from here. आप चाय बनाते हैं ना, चाय की पत्ती को पानी में डालते हैं, वो रंग छोड़ती है. जो थॉट आप यहाँ से ले जाएंगे वो आपको रंग जरूर लाएगी अगर आप उसको अप्लाई करेंगे. So the story which you will hear now will touch your emotion, will touch your heart, and hopefully you will share some reflections. We are very happy to post your reflections. We have a journal called happyteacher.in. I will share the journal right here. So the journal is on happyteacher.in. There is a very interesting article last week by Living in Harmony with Compassion by Devgan Sir, who's also the chairman of the Learning Forward India Foundation. So whatever teachers write and share, we post here. This is a very well respected blog. You may call it journal because we don't create journals now, we create blogs, and look at the following and the viewership of this blog. It's a very good blog. So if you write in it, you will do what Kamla is saying. Teachers need to reflect. We need to create our own journals. Why are we letting the West give us so much content when we have the content with you? So when you send us a reflection, we will share on this blog, please. let's get to the story of the day. I'm reading the book of Rumi, 105 stories and fables that illumine, delight, and inform. Illumine, delight, and inform. The angel of death. Solomon, the wise prophet, held daily audiences during which he listened to his subjects' complaints and tried to address their problems. One morning, as he was listening to one person after another, a distraught man hurled himself into the great court. Solomon noticed how distressed the man was and beckoned him forward. Grateful for being invited to the front of the queue, the man fell to his knees before the great benefactor. What seems to cause you such anguish, my dear fellow? Asked Solomon compassionately. तो सोलोमन एक वाइज प्रॉफिट है, एक समझदार सज्जन है. किंग सोलोमन, अगर आपको याद होगा तो सोलोमन को लोग प्रॉब्लम्स लेके आते थे, आस्किंग फॉर सॉल्यूशंस. On this day, Solomon saw someone very disturbed, and that person he invited to the front row and asked him, "What is your question? What is your problem?" Solomon ने प्यार से पूछा, "The angel of death, my lord. I saw him a minute ago as I was crossing the street. He glared at me with such disdain that my heart nearly stopped." यमदूत ने मुझे देखा और मैं थम सा गया. We all know the Azrael takes his orders only from the God and never wavers in his duties, asserted the great prophet. Now tell me, what would you have me to do? So Solomon explained that जो कर्म है वो भगवान देता है. आप बताओ मैं क्या कर सकता हूं? Now the disturbed person says, I beg of you, my life is in your hands. Please tell the wind to carry me to India, where I'll be safe from the angel's harm. Promptly, Solomon ordered the east wind to carry the nearly paralyzed man to India and lay him down wherever he chose. He then duly returned to his other subjects' unattended affairs. The following day, when he returned to court, Solomon caught a glimpse of the angel of death among the crowd. He mentioned the angel to approach and asked him, "Why do you frighten people with your wrathful looks?" उन्होंने यमा से पूछा, यमदूत से पूछा, आप लोगों को डराते क्यों? To that point, that they abandoned their livelihood and forsake their homes and family. What had the poor man done yesterday to deserve your crushing glare? Azrael was surprised. My lord, I didn't look at him wrathfully at all. In fact, I was astonished to see him. He said, God had commanded me to take this pitiful life today in India. And I couldn't imagine, even if he had a million wings, how was he to get there on time? I was startled and gazed at him with surprise, not anger. When you look at everything in life with your eyes of want and greed, whom do you hope to escape? Yourself? God? Is that possible? When you look at everything in your life with the eyes of want and greed, whom do you hope to escape?
Excuse
Yourself?
me, sir.
God? Is that possible? Yeah. God. Yes, Manisha? Any question? Any thought? From this story, what comes to your mind?
Excuse me, sir. Sir, screen is not visible.
क्या अब तो कुछ है ही नहीं स्क्रीन में दिखाने को. मैं तो वो कहानी सुना दी.
एक्चुअली
कहानी तो
बहुत
खत्म हो
पहले
गई. आपने कहानी सुनी ना?
कहानी सुनी है, बट वो स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं हो रही थी एट दैट टाइम.
कोई बात नहीं. आपको देखने से क्या, आपको तो कहानी सुनने से मतलब था. कहानी सुन तो लिया.
यस यस यस.
कहानी तो खत्म हो गई. अब आपको स्क्रीन शेयर करना है, मैं स्क्रीन शेयर भी कर देता हूँ। मेन तो मकसद, मेरा फोकस था कहानी सुनने में और सुनाने में। जैसे आप रेडियो सुनते हैं, रेडियो में जब आप नाटक सुनते हैं, आप ध्यान से सुनते हैं ना।
जी सर।
मैंने आपको नाटक सुनाया, आपने सुना ना,
यस
कि
सर, यस सर।
आप इसी चिंता में लगे रहे, स्क्रीन नजर नहीं आ रहा, स्क्रीन नजर नहीं आ रहा, और आपने नाटक भी नहीं सुना।
नहीं 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 सर, इट इज नॉट देयर।
तो अब आपके पास स्क्रीन है। अब
यस।
मैं आपसे गुजारिश करूंगा, शालिनी जी, आप स्क्रीन से पढ़ दीजिए एक बार। मैं कहानी वापस दिखाता हूं आपको। छोटी सी कहानी है, 2 मिनट में पढ़ी जाइए, प्लीज पढ़िए।
Solomon the wise prophet held daily audience during which the listened to his subjects' complaints and tried to address their problems. One morning, as he was listening to one person after another, uh, a distraught man hurled himself into the great court. Solomon noticed how distressed the man was and beckoned him forward. Gratefully for being invited to the front of the queue, the man fell to his knees before the great benefactor. What
पॉज,
seems to be
कहानी जस्ट पॉज हियर। What seems
okay.
to be causing you such anguish, my dear fellow? Asked Solomon compassionately. Now, when I read this, do you feel something? The angel of death, my lord. I saw him a minute ago as I was crossing the street. He glared at me with such disdain that my heart nearly stopped. We all know that Israel takes his orders only from God and never wavers in his duties, asserted the great prophet. Now tell me, what would you have me to do? I beg of you, my life's in your hands. Please tell the wind to carry me to India, where I will be safe from the angel's harm. Promptly, Solomon ordered the east wind to carry the nearly paralyzed man to India and lay him down wherever he chose. He then duly returned to his other subjects' unattended affairs. The following day, when he returned to court, Solomon caught a glimpse of the angel of death among the crowd. He mentioned the angel to approach and asked him, "Why do you frighten people with the awful look to the point that they abandon their livelihood and forsake their homes and family? What had the poor man done yesterday to deserve your crushing glare?" Israel was surprised. "My lord, I didn't look at him wrathfully at all. In fact, I was astonished to see him," he said. "God had commanded me to take his pitiful life today in India, and I couldn't imagine, even if he had a million wings, how was he to get there on time?" I was startled and gazed at him with surprise, not anger. When you look at everything in life with the eyes of want and greed, whom do you hope to escape? Yourself? God? Is that possible? Very powerful statement. Manisha, you quoted this statement also,
Yes, sir.
and I'm sure it'll make us think. Now, the question back: what comes to your mind, top of the mind? What comes to your top of the mind before we close the session? What hits you most when you hear this story? आप जब ये कहानी सुनते हैं, आपको क्या हिला देता है? कैसे, देखो, उसने कहा, मैंने एग्जाम्पल दिया, इजराइल को देखा और इजराइल से मैं डर गया। इजराइल भगवान से आदेश लेता है और उस डर से बचने के लिए आप मुझे इंडिया भेज दें, और पता क्या था कि इंडिया में उसकी डेथ आनी थी। एंजल ऑफ डेथ, दैट इज द स्टोरी. So this week, if you have a reflection, if you have a thought, Manisha, please write down your email address in the chat.
Sure, sir.
You can write either about this story, or you can write about what Kamla has written on how she is going to create the book. It may be easier for you to reflect on the story, and that's why we introduce this element. where the book will take care of your professional learning and the messages from Rumi will take care of your social learning or personal development. And only when we can take care of personal and social development can we make a difference to our teacher's life. Manisha's address is there in the chat. Please put it there. Manisha, put it also in the WhatsApp group. I don't want you to create any post or reflection for this session. The video will be available on the YouTube channel. So before you go, I may just want to show you the YouTube channel, which you can find very easily. So the YouTube channel, I will share the YouTube channel with you. There is a question from Vidyotama in the chat. Manisha, please answer that. So the YouTube channel is My Good School and there are the videos there. So this video will come up in the channel. If you go to the home page, that's where it'll open up when you type youtube.com. Welcome to My Good School. So we will just put this off and the videos will come here. So here's 16th My Good School video. The video for today's session will come here tomorrow. In case you have missed it or you want to reread this chapter or you want to browse through the what we have done today, you're most welcome. Now that is provided to you so that you can create a reflection piece. And if you'd like to reflect, you know where to send them. Manisha has shared her email address. Good evening, sir. I'm reading another book which has a phenomena of auto-suggestion, which means the same. Brilliant, Vidotama. You can tell us more about the book we are reading.
Yes, sir, definitely. It's by Napoleon Hill,
Yeah.
and it suggests about auto suggestion. I really like this phenomena. So,
Mm-hmm.
which means the same, like you auto suggest your mind about a particular thing, and your mind and the universe is so powerful
Yeah,
that
it creates the aura for that.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
wonderful. So why don't you write this down and send it to us with Yotma? It'll be lovely to share.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, sir, definitely, I'll do that.
God bless you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you liked the
Very
session,
much, sir.
go to the WhatsApp chat and say you liked it and what you like about it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you,